What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel. If you're just getting here, feel free to look around and drop us a subscribe. Today's video is going to be the first in a series of videos. The series of videos is going to be me breaking down different hunt styles, different hunt methods, and things of that nature. And all the credit is due for Kurt Culbertson. Thank you for dropping the comment. I think this is a really good idea. I think there's a lot of information to be heard and shared in this department. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set up a series, and we're going to get videos cranked out for this specific subject. The first video that I'm going to give you guys in the series, obviously, is going to be me and my preferences and my hunt method and the way that I hunt dogs. Okay, so number one, I am a more geared towards a trainer. I definitely enjoy the training process way more than hunting dogs that have already been going. So I've trained and handled and been in the woods with numerous amounts of dogs with various degrees of issues or having problems to get worked out of. And that's where I get all this information, and then where I've learned the hard way throughout the years on how to do things from point A to point B instead of skipping around and taking a long time to get things done. Okay, so that's my perspective, and that's where I'm typically hunting from, is on the side of younger started dogs or dogs that are problematic, dogs that need work. From this side of the fence is usually where I stand. Okay, so number one, I'm a leash caster, so I almost cast off a leash exclusively, especially for the first time. When we're getting to a patch of woods, I'm always casting off the leash. I do not cast out of the box. I do not cast out of the vehicle. I do not cast onto a field or to the edge of the woods or on the road or on a lane or a two-track. I physically walk into the woods and leash cast. I think these two right here have to be paired, because one without the other for me is non-existent. For other people, leash casting can look like a lot of different things, and I'm going to have a whole video on leash casting, but this is just pertaining to me and getting you guys the information about me and my preferred methods. Okay, so leash casting from inside the woods. So I always get my dog on a leash and I walk the dog 15, 20, 30 yards into the woods before I cut. Now there's a lot of reasons for this. The number one reason is if you have a dog that doesn't necessarily want to break brush, that doesn't necessarily want to get off the road, get out of the lane, get off the field, and they don't want to get into the woods, this remedies that immediately because you've already walked them in there. That's one problem off the list for that. Another issue that a lot of dogs have is when you cut them and they have all the options to do what they want to do. Number one, they'll do the most random stuff. Like you want to cut them this way and they'll run this way. Or you want them to go in the woods, but they'll just hang out in the field or hang out by the truck or do whatever. So this eliminates all those little issues that you get. Okay, so that's why I'm a leash caster from in the woods. Okay, so let's look into my hunt style. Okay, so the way that I hunt while the dog is hunting, I am I very much so follow dogs through the woods. Okay, and this is for various reasons. I do have kind of like a little rule or strategy set that I use and employ in this, but the reason why I follow is because I'm always within earshot. You can hear if they're in trouble. You can hear if they're running trash. And you're in yelling distance. You can call them back. You can give them help. Okay, so it's greatly benefited on the young dog side, on the learning side of the dog, to have a handler or a hunter that hunts relatively close to them to back them up and give them the confidence and to get them pushed along. Okay, so when I first cut a dog, what I do is I'll find my place and I'll cut. If the dog immediately goes off and finds a track and it immediately begins hunting and it starts breaking brush and getting in the woods and moving, all I do is I wait. Okay, so what I'm waiting for is one of two things: the dog to come back or the dog to strike. Okay, so if the dog strikes, I will just stay in the same place. I'll stay in the same place, and while the dog strikes, it pushes a track. If the dog gets 350 yards from me, I will give the dog a minute or two to come back my direction, push the track back in my direction, or get something figured out where they're not much farther than 350. If they start pushing beyond 350, then I start walking to the dog and walking in the general vicinity of the dog, and I get myself within 150 to 200 yards, which is basically yelling distance, and I just watch GPS and let the dog work. and I just kind of keep up and keep at this distance until I either hear that the dog is really picking up and really about to slam a tree, by putting GPS information together, the dog's information together, and having this idea. Then I will cut the gap down and I'll start hanging out more 75, 50 yard range from the dog. Okay, so another situation in this is, okay, so let's say we have a dog that gets stubbed up, okay, and this happens so much. It happens to seasoned dogs. It happens to every dog. Okay, how long or short of a period of time that they actually get stubbed up is going to dictate how we are going to act on this. So for me, especially for these younger dogs or these dogs that they're just having a flat out issue, maybe they are looping, maybe they are striking a track to a certain point, quitting striking, going off, coming back and picking it up, running a big loop and keep on picking the same track up, but cannot figure it out. What I'll do is I'll go stand right in the middle of this. And what this does is it gives the dog for one, it doesn't have to come back and check in. Okay, so it's never going to worry about how long it's been gone. It gives it the confidence that once it does figure it out, it doesn't have to backtrack to where it came from to get pushed on, because you are a placeholder for this dog. And another thing it does is it just gives the dog a presence that is going to help the dog work. And you can sit there and you can kind of get an idea. Like, you can go walk in there like, oh, well, he's just barking at the edge of leaves, 3 feet off the ground on this whole area. Okay, so this dog probably is just fooling around or something. And it gives you a visual representation of what the dog's doing in that area. And it gives the dog the backup and support it needs to actually get something pushed on out of there. Okay, so that's one thing that I'll do. Okay, so I said I would wait on 2 things to happen. 1 or 2 things to happen, and the dog either strike or come back. So if the dog comes back, okay, what I do is I now am a free casted hunter. And what I say this is free casted, my dog is free cast, is that it's off leash. Okay, it's off leash in the woods. And it's in the vicinity of me handling with commands. I'm not going to make it be right on my heels or nothing like that, but it's in the general vicinity of me, and I'm coaxing the dog through the woods by, come on, let's go. Just come on, and just giving a little holler here or there to keep it in my vicinity, and then we get walk hunted. Okay, so then we'll be walk hunting the dog, and this is what I mean by walk hunting, is that we are walking through the woods while the dog is off leash walking through the woods with us. Okay, and this is a lot of new dogs, a lot of young dogs, they will walk hunt way more successfully than they will ever get out here and strike up on their own. So walk hunting a dog is 100 times more beneficial for a young dog, because the amount of times that they actually peel off and come back to you, and you walk them, and then they peel off and come back to you, and you walk them and you peel off and they come back to you, is the more experience and the more times that dog has left and been out in the world on its own. And they'll build the time limits, and they'll build, like, all this stuff comes with time in the woods and walk hunting them. And this way is one of the best ways to develop that. Okay, so once the dog comes back, I will walk hunt the dog until it takes off, and then I just rinse and repeat this process and walk hunt the dog. And and this is the number one way that you can get woods time for your dog. I'll make a whole separate video on woods time, but walk hunting, and this is what I'm talking about, is a free casted dog while I'm walk hunting, and then this is where I go from there, and then we push on to the tree. Okay, so when I get to the tree, I am very much so a one of 2 guys at the tree. I am either quiet as a church mouse on the tree. Okay, so if we have a dog that is problematic getting caught, a dog that has a problematic getting leashed, when I first enter to the tree, I am dead quiet. Okay, unless the dog comes off the tree, then let's just get back on the tree. It's very limited interaction on the tree until I assess the situation and say, okay, I want to take the time to leash the dog back. I want to leave the dog on while I'll shine. Before I assess the situation, okay? So if I look at a tree and I say it's going to be a hard tree to shine, then I definitely want to leash my dog back. And then we'll talk about that here in just a second. But being very limited about the verbal cues that you give a dog on the tree is one of the most beneficial things that you can possibly do. Okay, so one of the big things that I would recommend everybody does is to amp your dog up on the tree. talk to them, talk to them, talk to them. Now, you can amp a dog up and keep it slamming a tree that you have not shined as long as we do not praise for it treeing something that it has supposed to have been treed, okay? So we can keep a dog amped in on a tree while we're checking the tree without giving praise too early. And I think this is a huge thing, and this is just one of the most key things that you can possibly do. Because if you can amp a dog on a tree without praising it for doing a good job, then the dog stays completely engaged on that tree while we check. And once we verify that it's done a good job, then it gets the good boy. Then we have had the X amount of time of this dog amped on that tree before it receives the praise. And once it receives the praise, then the dog has been treeing for X amount of time. And then if it is not what it is supposed to have, we still have good tree time on the dog. We have not praised our dog for treeing trash. And then we have very low bad implications in this sense. So this is one of the things that I will do is amp a dog while I'm checking the tree. Another thing that I will do is praise, and heavy praise, heavy pets, heavy praise, heavy pets, heavy praise, heavy pets when you do find something in the tree that you are looking for. The other commands that I'll give on a tree is get back on the tree, get back on the tree, get back on the tree, get back on the tree. I do not want my dog leaving the tree while I'm there. I want the dog to stay steady, amped in on the tree. I want my dog slamming the tree the entire time. And once I decide whether I'm going to leash it back or not, then I want my dog slamming the tree the entire time, or I want my dog on the leash barking the entire time. Okay, and this is just good practice. It's good practice. Now, how I dictate whether or not I will leash a dog back, because leashing a dog back on a tree cuts out so many bad things that can happen. Dog leave the tree, something fall out of the tree on the dog wanting to take off because it's getting bored, the dog shutting up. I mean, the dog's gun shy, and we need to work through gun shyness. So leashing the dog back is always your first reaction, especially if we have a dog that hasn't made a lot of trees. Once a dog gets to the point to where once it hears the shot, and then it's physically looking for the coon to come down, and it has that process clicked in its brain that it knows what's happening while you're shining, it knows what happens while you're shooting, it knows what happens after, it knows the whole process, then I'm more comfortable leaving a dog off leash. If I get onto a tree that is super difficult to shine, I will definitely leash the dog back, because we might be there for a while. And some dogs, even no matter how good of a tree dog they are, they may lose interest in that tree and decide to go hunt and look for something else because you're taking too long. So it's a lot of good remedies in that sense. Okay, so I've covered on the way that I like to hunt dogs all the way up into the tree. After this, then I am one of two guys. If I'm going to recut, then I leash my dog and I walk maybe 25 yards away and get the dog recut. Okay, so then we just repeat the whole process all over again. The other guy that I turn into is free casting all the way back to the truck. Let my dog be off leash while I'm on my way back to the truck. This is excellent practice for tone breaking, excellent practice for recalling, excellent practice for getting to know your dog, excellent chance and opportunity at the dog striking something up just out of the blue. I mean, there's so many good benefits to this, and if you can get a dog to where it will free cast and be off leash in the woods and stick in your vicinity and leave your vicinity when you want it to and come back, this is a very good spot to be at in handling, and it's being free casted in the woods is how we want to live, especially when we're getting woods time in the beginning. With that, I'm going to wrap that up. The next video is going to be me breaking down leash casting a little bit farther, but I feel like I broke down free casting and my preference in this video enough to not need a video. Please do not forget to get down there and hit a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And I'm going to move on into shout outs. Okay, so number one, I want to give a huge shout out to you, Kurt. I think I'm going to start calling you Kurt. I have some issue, or Kurt Culbertson is kind of hard for me to say. It's kind of odd, but I'm going to start calling you Kurt. I think you've earned that. And then I'm going to give a shout out to Jeff Jackson and T Champion. T Champion, I'm going to give you a direct apology. I missed you on the last video. You deserve a shout out last video, but I got you this time. You came from a Facebook group. I believe you came from a Squirrel Hunter group, if I'm not mistaken. And that's going to be a little tidbit that I'm going to drop right here for you guys, is that I am going to be getting a Feist pup, and I'm going to be pursuing that and trying to my hand at a squirrel dog, possibly a meat dog in that department. Never owned them before. Heard a lot of great things, see a lot of great things, and it's piqued my interest, so I think that's the next little mission, and you guys are going to come along with me for that. I'm in the process of trying to scrape one together and get that whole situation figured out. But keep them treed. Don't forget to hit a subscribe.